the second day of Pesach, and we're all here. Yasher Koach. Whew. I hope everyone, in addition to having a lovely second Seder, started counting the Omer last night. Here we are in Shul for the third day in a row. We've been deep in Seder preparations for days. We've been up late telling the story of the Exodus and up early to come to Shul. We've been immersed in it. As my teacher, Rabbi Mark Borovitz, would say, we've been misapare. We've been telling the story of the Exodus for 2 days now. And so last night we were having Seder with my husband's cousin's family. The Seder was led by my husband's cousin, Yehuda. It was a beautiful and very scholarly Seder, hosted by Yehuda's in-laws, Avram and Freda, who were lovely people. It was warm, welcoming, and delicious. And at approximately half an hour before halachic midnight last night, after spending most of the evening deliberating what I should teach today, the insight finally struck. Let's learn about one of the songs we sing at the end of the Seder. After all, we're here on the second day of Pesach. We're nearing the end of the Yom Tov experience. For now, let's learn about one of these songs that we sing at the end. As you all know, there are several to choose from. And the one that really stuck out to me from last night was Echad Miyodea. And last night in singing this song, there was a tradition that I didn't remember experiencing before. We were with them also last year, so I'm like, did I just forget? Or, these things happen. It's a pretty crazy tradition because in singing Echad Miyodea, they use 3 different melodies, and they kind of alternate through them. There are 2 melodies in Hebrew, and there's one in Yiddish, and it really drew my attention to the song. And it also, you all know me, I love a fun fact. This is really a song all about fun facts. There are 13 fun facts in this song. Some of them are well-known and evident. Some of them are not so well-known. So let's go through them all. Here we go. All right, so who knows one? God is one. This actually comes up a lot when I'm teaching. When we're learning together on our weekly classes, our Let's Get Mystical Haftarah study and our weekly warm-up Torah study, we end up talking about this a lot because Judaism isn't a religion focusing on belief. Our focus is really on action. But when you get right down to it, you do have to believe in something, and that thing is that there is one God. If you're not so sure that God exists, we can find a way to work with that. But there's only one God, not multiple gods. That's central. And we know that because of the Shema. That's our Jewish doctrine, our definition of faith. God is one. Who knows? 2. 2, the tablets of the covenant. Moses brought them down from Mount Sinai. Speaking of 2, he did this twice. Let's move on to 3. Who knows 3? 3 are our patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham had one son who carried on the tradition. That son was Isaac. Isaac had one son who carried on the tradition. That son was Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons. Each became their own tribe. And that's how we ended up going down to Egypt, but we've been talking about that, so let's move on. Who knows 4? 4 are our matriarchs, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Sarah, the first Jewish mother, Rebecca the second. Each of them really advocated for their son to be a leader in the family. And these sons grew up to be our patriarchs. Now, Rachel and Leah, they were sisters who ended up in a family situation that was not so easy, but nevertheless, they became the bridge between our ancestors as a family and our ancestors as a nation, as their sons and their handmaid sons became our 12 tribes. So who knows 5? Okay, hopefully we all know this one by heart. 5 are the books of the Torah. We've got Genesis, Bereshit, Exodus, Shmot, Leviticus, Vayikra, Numbers, Bamidbar, and Deuteronomy, Devarim. Now, along similar lines, but a little bit more challenging this time, who knows 6? 6 are the tractates of the Mishnah. So if you got all 5 books of the Torah, this one is for bonus points. We start with Zera'im, seeds, about agriculture and economy. Holidays, Moed, about festivals and calendar. Then a tractate called Nashim, which translates to women, but this is about marriage and divorce, about family law. Then we have damages, Nizikin, civil law and criminal law. Holy things, Kodashim, temple offerings, and the rules of kashrut, the rules of keeping kosher. And finally, last but not least, purity, taharot, the appropriate preparation for making offerings. Okay, 6 orders of the Mishnah. That was a lot. Who knows 7? More simple this time. 7 are the days of the week. We read at the beginning of the book of Genesis, God made the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th. The 7-day week is a basic unit of time. So who knows 8? Well, this is getting a little bit more emotionally difficult. 8 are the days of Brit Milah. Brit Milah is a holy ritual that continues to define us as a people. So many interpretations, so many deep emotional connections. If you remember yesterday's Haftarah, we read about it quite a bit actually in the Torah reading as well, because you need Brit Milah in order to partake of the Pesach sacrifice. There are two teachings about Brit Milah that I've learned over time that really stick with me. First, about the number 7. We just spoke about the number 7. It's essential as a unit of time in the physical world. The number 7 represents the spiritual within the physical, but the number 8, the 8 days of Brit Milah, represents the spiritual within the spiritual. Brit Milah represents pure transcendence. And also, 8 days of Brit Milah, maybe some of you have heard this one as well, so that every baby can experience at least one Shabbat before Brit Milah, giving them spiritual strength. Moving on to 9. Who knows 9? Speaking of babies, 9 months of pregnancy. Why is this even on the list? Because children are our future. Passing our tradition along to our children is our essential task. That is why this community here at Adat Shalom continues to prioritize our religious school. Raising our children and our tradition gives our people a future. It allows us to share the gift of being Jewish that we were all given. Who knows 10? The 10 Commandments. Are you ready for some more bonus points? I know I am. Okay, the first one, I'm God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. You will have no other gods before me. That's number 1. Number 2, you will not make sculptured images and bow down to them and serve them. That's a bad thing to do. Don't do it. Do not swear falsely by God's name. That's the 3rd. Remember and protect the Sabbath day. Keep it holy, doing no work. We celebrate Shabbat here every week as a community. And number 5, this is kind of my favorite because I find it the most beautiful and the most difficult. Honor your father and mother. What does that even mean? So many conversations could be had. Then we have the second group of 5, which are a little bit more straightforward, but no less important. Don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't bear false witness, and don't covet anything belonging to your neighbor. So this is my favorite teaching about that last one. So for example, if your neighbor has a really nice car, you're allowed to want a really nice car. You're even allowed to want the same kind of really nice car in the same color, as long as it's not your neighbor's really nice car. If your colleague is successful, you're allowed to want to be successful, as long as you don't want your colleague's success. You want your own success. Who knows 11? Now, this one I think is legitimately confusing. There are 11, who knows 11? There are 11 stars. What does this even mean? We spend, earlier in the Haggadah, we're talking about how the Jewish people don't believe in mazalot, don't believe in astrology or stars, or we don't worship idols, or we don't worship the stars. So 11 stars, what is this talking about? Of course, it's the 11 stars in Joseph's dream. So we read in the book of Genesis, Parashat Vayeshev, chapter 37, verse 9, Joseph has a dream. And the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars, which we hear about in Echad Miodea, the 11 stars were bowing down to him. His brothers weren't so thrilled to hear about this, but his father Jacob made a special note. Moving on to the number 12. This one's connected actually to the number 4, which is our matriarchs. 12 are the 12 tribes. Here we go. We start out with Reuben, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. These are the eldest of the sons. They're all sons of Leah. Then moving right along, we have Dan and Naphtali, the next 2 sons, the sons of Rachel's handmaid Bilhah. After that, Gad and Asher, the next 2 sons of Leah's handmaid Zilpah. Then Leah has some more kids. We have Issachar and Zebulun, the next 2 sons, the youngest sons of Leah. And then we have Joseph, the eldest son of Rachel. He becomes a double tribe, Ephraim and Manasseh, but that still counts as just one tribe because, fuzzy math. And then Benjamin, the youngest son of Rachel, the 12th tribe. Okay. Last, certainly not least, who knows 13? I feel like this is like saving the most obscure for last. So 13 are the Midayah. That's in Aramaic. The Hebrew translation is Midot. Midot means measures or attributes. So 13 qualities of God. So the secret, the surprise, is that we kind of don't know that we already know them. In fact, we said them earlier in the service today. If you turn to your Siddur on page 323, you'll find them right at the top of the page in bold print. We associate these words with the high holidays, but we actually say them on all the festivals, which of course you all know because you're in shul on Yom Tov. Yes. So we remind ourselves every holiday of God's forgiveness. As I heard someone say one time, we're human, we make mistakes, that's what we do. That is what we do as humans, is make mistakes. And God is forgiving. That's what God does. That's how our relationship with God works. So here are the 13 attributes enumerated. You can follow along if you'd like, follow along with your eyes, that is, on page 323. So, Adonai, that's the first attribute, which means God is merciful before we make any mistakes, knowing that eventually we will surely make mistakes. The second Adonai, God is merciful after we make a mistake. The next attribute, El, God is mighty, but God is still above all forgiving. Rachum, God is compassionate. Chanun, God is gracious. Erech Apayim, slow to anger, which I don't know about you, reminds me of some people I know who are not so slow to anger. So God is very slow to anger, which we love. Rav Chesed, abundant in kindness. Emet, God doesn't go back on God's word. God said that God would forgive, and God's going to keep that promise. Notzer Chesed la'alafim, assuring loving kindness for thousands of generations, which means that we today, we make mistakes sometimes, but we can always rely on the merit of our ancestors, even our matriarchs and patriarchs. Nosei avon, forgiving iniquity, which means that God forgives evil even when we meant to do evil, as long as we have a sincere change of heart. Pesha, forgiving willful sin, even if we did the wrong thing specifically to make God angry, which happens sometimes, right? God will still forgive us if we have a sincere change of heart. V'chata'ah. Now, we've all done this a few times lately, I'm sure. We've made mistakes from a place of carelessness, thoughtlessness, or apathy. God will forgive those mistakes too. And venakeh. When we truly ask for forgiveness, God will grant us forgiveness. So now we all know 13. So I hope you enjoy this journey through Jewish numbers as we're wrapping up for this year the first days of Yom Tov for the Pesach holiday. And I hope for all of us that we can remember these 13 attributes of God the next time we make a mistake, even when we're careless, even when we're rebellious, even when, God forbid, we do evil. We can be forgiven when we have a change of heart. May we feel this forgiveness for God when we need it, and may we, in our time of need, be also inspired and able to forgive one another. Chag Sameach.